Guys, I have a confession to make, and it might be a shocking one, but bear with me. Before we get into the confession, if you saw yesterday's short, I talked a little bit about how in the early days of the channel was very different than it is now. Back then, I was working as a cowboy. I was always out in the woods. I was on the family ranch. I was on the ranch for the people that I worked for. I was doing a lot with my knives. A lot more maybe than I do now. In fact, definitely more than I do now. Back then, I had a really good sense or a really good gauge for when a steel was performing the way it should be and when it wasn't. I was very, very familiar with what the different steels I was using should be capable of, and I could instantly tell you if a knife was not performing the way that the steel would make me think it should perform. Well, nowadays, I don't use my folding knives like I used to. My fixed blades still get used quite often. I do a lot of bushcraft. I do a lot of backpacking and camping. You guys know that. So my fixed blade use, my fixed blades still get used a lot. But my folding knives don't, really. I work in a museum. I cut cardboard and tape. I cut a lot of labels, zip ties every now and again, some food prep. That's what my folding knives see these days. I'm not cutting through hay string and leather and irrigation tarps and plastics and hosing and tubing and things like that. I'm not doing that with my folding knives anymore. And my confession is that I can't tell the difference between a lot of steels in just my day-to-day. I can tell the difference between a lot of blades. Oh, is this blade shape better than that blade shape? This knife has better geometry than that knife. That is instantly obvious to me. But as far as the actual use of the steels go, I'm getting to where it doesn't really matter what the steel type is on my knife. And that might sound strange. Part of that is because as a reviewer, I'm switching up the knife that I carry a lot, right? So I might carry one knife for a week and then another knife for a week and then another knife the week after that. So I'm not, using the knives enough to completely destroy the edges or anything like that. The other thing too is the way this channel always works is I don't really do testing. I just carry a knife and use it day to day and see how it works for me. And so that's one of the reasons why, because my day-to-day tasks have changed, it's getting harder for me to tell a difference between different steels. Sometimes stainlessness, I can tell a difference with. I recently got this knife in that has MagnaCut. I'm going to do a little more testing on that just because that's my first MagnaCut knife. I want to see what MagnaCut is capable of. But I will say, the Aurora Truffles, this is a knife that I have carried for like a month and a half straight just because I've got a lot of fixed blades that I'm using. And this is a knife that I haven't been able to tell that, oh, this S35VN is performing very well, right where I'd want it to. I love S35VN, and this is good stuff. And that's been nice for me, getting back into the feeling of, oh, I can tell that this steel is working the way it should.